it's a big threshold to cross, killing a living human being.
Mm.
I think
Yep.
I think, knowing self-defense and how to put somebody in a chokehold and then put handcuffs on them and then lead them to a new free jail, that can be extremely satisfying. And, when people kill people, they told me that it's very uncomfortable. It's very uncomfortable internally afterward.
Yeah, I mean, maybe, but not for people who have lost their love of their life.
Agreed.
For
Agreed.
them, it might be more comfortable than
Yeah.
what you think. But
Yeah. And I don't want to speak for everybody. And I see Jewish Samantha, I hear you, Jewish Samantha.
all right, who's talking next? For some reason,
Next, we have Shauna. But before we move on, Armin, Susie had asked if she could chime in on this last point.
yes, please, please do. Yes,
Now,
we can hear you. Yes.
like, I understand where Gary is coming from, but I don't know if he's in the same Telegram groups where that I am and have seen what happens Persian street justice, some Iranian street justice. Like I to be honest, I was like telling my husband about it and he's like, "Whoa, that doesn't seem right. Like, I don't want to see people tortured to death in the street no matter what they did." And I'm like, "It's a war right now." Let me be completely clear. There are people getting killed in the street extremely violently right now. We just don't hear about it that much, but it's out there. One thing that I am just like, and I don't want to be, for lack of a better term, concern trolling. People know where my heart is, but I am genuinely concerned about a witch hunt because, like, I have friends who their family are like mullahs, like part of the regime, and they had to leave everything behind because their family is part of the regime. Like they went into self exile, essentially. Like and if someone was to like dox them and be like, look, this person is so and so's niece, blah, blah, blah. Like yes, that is their uncle, but that's not fair to them. Like they lost everything because they didn't want to be a part of this system. You know what I mean? Like it's like this woman who's like Rouhani's niece was like getting doxxed the other day. And I'm like, we don't know what her circumstance is. Some like Lauren Johnny's daughter, okay, sure. But like some of these other people, we have no idea what their circumstances are. And so when people talk about like showing up at someone's house, like you have no idea what's going on within that house. What if it's the house of that girl that was calling saying, I wish I could kill my father, but I don't have the means. And then something happens to her.
I don't
I
think anything will happen to them. I think they're trying to put the fear into the minds of, like, they're not going to go kill children and their wives and stuff like that. What they're going to do is basically what they're doing is trying to make sure that the IRGC commanders feel the same amount of fear that they're feeling. That's what they're trying to do.
Yeah, again, like I'm not trying to be like concern trolling or sympathetic. I feel like I'm not articulating myself very well, but like things can get out of hand very quickly. And I have no like my eyes are very wide open to that.
Well, but let me defend the Iranian people a little bit here. Things cannot get worse than the situation that we are in with the Islamic Republic, right? So even though there are going to be some cost associated with, like, sometimes there are people who will get something that they don't deserve, right? But because we're in the middle of a war, this is more about survival than fairness, right? So if you want to be too careful about making sure nothing bad happens to nobody that doesn't deserve it, then you're putting yourself at such a disadvantage against a monster that doesn't have any of these standards. They doesn't, like, you're not going to be able to fight. Like, oh my god, let's be careful not to do anything wrong. At
No,
the end
that's
of the
not my
day, if
standard.
you're,
To be clear, that's
I'm
not my
not saying I'm
standard.
not
Okay.
I'm not saying that's your standard. I'm just
No, but
basically
I know
trying
other
to,
people are not as intelligent as you.
yeah. I just wanted to clarify that at the end of the day, if I have to do the things that we need to do to make the IRGC and Basij and Niriyah and Tizami back off, if basically to make them on the run instead of them on the attack mode, if some people do something that there's going to have some people something happening to them that they don't deserve it, compared to just allowing these regime forces be able to do what they want without fear of pushback. I think you have to do a cost benefit analysis, and again, basically trying to tie your hands to be like, oh guys, let's be moral and let's make sure that nothing bad happens to nobody. I think that's such a restriction that doesn't make any sense to Iranians. I think 50,000 of them died in just a couple of hours. We don't judge Israel for the 12-day war. 1,000 Iranians died, and so many of them were civilians. We don't judge Israel. So, if we apply that standard to Israel, we should also apply the same standard to the Iranian people, given that they're fighting against such an evil monster. We have to allow them to go a bit radical here, because you need to be a little bit radical. You need to be radical against such a monster.
Madness is rational in times of madness. I don't have any delusions. I'm just thinking about, maybe I'm like overcomplicating things. I don't know how that's going to play, like how that's going to be spun. Do people have a stomach to stand by that and justify that? These are serious considerations.
This also emphasizes how important Prince Reza Pahlavi is, because the
Mhm.
only power that we have that could correct anything that goes too far in one direction is Prince Reza Pahlavi. There's no other force in Iran that could work as a correcting mechanism that people actually believe in and listen to. So this is also shows how important it is for us to have Prince Reza Pahlavi.
Yeah. But you like know where, I don't know, you understand me, right, Armin?
Yeah, I've seen those videos that you're talking about. Yeah, and
Yeah,
yeah.
like
So yeah.
it's on a different level. So,
Yeah, it just.
I mean,
I mean,
granted, that was in the like on the 8th and the 9th, when things were really popping off. So that's a completely different
and
circumstance,
and
but
to be completely transparent, when I was watching them, I was actually happy to see them.
sure.
Okay, and like, because of the level of anger I have towards these people, and I haven't lost a single family member. So imagine the people who lost family members watching those videos.
Okay. Next, we have Shauna.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So the UN Watch was talking about China, Russia, North Korea, and Pakistan defending the Iranians slaughtering their people. Because I, I'm not super like. I mean, of course, China and Russia, and North Korea are going to do this, but Pakistan is an American ally on paper. I know they're Muslims, but I just don't know if that's. I'm not concerned about them getting involved because they can't do shit. Is that concern for global stuff? And then the other thing too, and maybe Gary would know this, and maybe he doesn't, but the Azerbaijanis, you said that their areas were porous. Is that also possible? Do you have any idea how they feel about the? I just know Azerbaijan has gotten a lot more kind of liberal more recently, or have been trying to at least secularize as much as they can. So I don't know if you know anything, if they would, or if anybody knows anything about how they might respond. They're also an American ally, I believe, but I could be wrong. It's a tiny country, not a lot of firepower, if any, but an important location nevertheless. I heard everything both you and Susie said, Armin, but I would also like to point out that there is, and I'm not saying they shouldn't do anything. It's just that I also think that there's probably just going to be some vengeance and some excess bloodshed that's going to happen. And the reason I think that is because even in France, after World War II, after the Nazi occupation, there were women who had slept with Nazi soldiers so they could feed their kids, and they were punished for that. I mean, there was a lot of violence on a lot of random people that weren't necessarily traitors, they were just people that were stuck in the middle in a shitty situation, and a lot of those people were kind of punished regardless. There was a lot of extra violence that happened after that in like France and some of these other places. So I just.
Yeah, given that, honestly, I think that we have such a big problem right now with the Islamic Republic that some people doing some bad things eventually at some point is
Right.
not
Right.
really that high as a list of our concerns compared to what the monster that
I'm not
we're
saying it is.
dealing with.
Nazis
Yeah.
still needed to
I
be
know, I know.
removed from France. It's just
Yeah.
I just wanted to I just really wanna emphasize the I guess I just wanna say my piece about
I'm
that,
pretty
like, I
sure
think
in
it's
every revolution that happened. So that's why
yeah.
I'm not going to be too judgmental against the Iranian people, given that this seems to
I'm
be a
not gonna be
natural
any
part of
more judgmental
it.
than I would be towards,
Yeah.
like, Western you know what I mean? Like, I'm
Yep.
not yeah. That was, like, a 4-year occupation and that happened, so I'm expecting
Right.
humans to human.
Right. By the way, Azerbaijan is also the country, not the province, is also an ally of Israel. So I'm pretty sure they're also an ally of. It's a it's the only Shia Muslim country that is an ally of Israel. A big ally.
They also are the first Muslim country to invite Mormon missionaries in. That's why I know that they're getting more liberal and secularizing because that's a sign if they're inviting Christian missionaries from a Christian minority, like, that's not a small thing. Mormons traditionally do not go into Muslim countries because Muslims can get killed if they convert, and so you ought to protect human life. So the fact that
But I
they
didn't know if any of these countries are right now are important in any way when it comes to the military aspect, unless like Gary has some information regarding
I just think they're
Pakistan or
important for location, not military location.
Azerbaijan is important from a location perspective because if they want to basically attack from the northwest, that airspace Azerbaijan will probably make it available to Israeli planes or anyone else. But that's the only thing that I could see
Yeah, I only
Azerbaijan
said
would be.
location. They don't have fire I don't think they're important for military, literally just location.
Right. Pakistan, I'm not sure Pakistan would be relevant because if they're coming from the east, they will be coming from the southeast, from the Oman Sea and the Persian Gulf areas. I don't see them
Um,
coming from the east. Yeah.
I'm not worried about them. Okay, so here's the thing, they're also not very good fighters. So even if they do come in, I'm not overly concerned
Yeah.
about them.
The thing regarding the Pakistan side that you need to worry about is not the Pakistan government itself. It's the Baluchi separatists that might get some ideas right now because the regime might be falling. So that's what you need to be looking out
What are the
for that.
Baluchi separatists?
Oh, the Baluchi separate. Well, they're they're
Real quick.
they're separatists that are Baluchi. So they're basically Baluchi people are part of the Iranian on the Iranian side, they're Baluchi people on the Pakistani side,
So are they like
right? So
Kurds? Not
yeah,
They're a
not
but they're
like
different
more.
Kurds,
ethnic
but
group.
like
Yeah,
that's what I mean by like Kurds, sorry.
yes, yes,
Okay,
but
And
yeah,
on both
alright.
again, they
on
don't.
both sides of the Iranian-Pakistan border and
Mhm.
within Pakistan, the Baluchi insurgency is one of the longest running current insurgencies like going on. It's been an insurgency for a very, very long time on the Pakistan side of the border
Why?
because they're not treated very well by the Pakistani government.
Okay. Yeah,
And it's a very poor area, and it's also water shortages makes things unstable over there as well.
every week I find out about a new ethnicity in the Middle East. So I'm like, it's like Pokemon, you gotta catch them all. Like, I don't even know. Um, so okay, well, my mostly concern again, it's not a huge concern. I just wanted some thoughts because UN Watch reported on it, and while I do think it's more to keep Pakistan closer to the West, A, for their own good, because maybe some progress can happen. I don't have a lot of high hopes, but 10% optimism I want to hold on to. But the other factor is
Pakistan is a failed state that you need to keep supporting to keep it running because if it falls apart, there is basically a whole bunch of American weaponry and also atomic
gonna
weapons that will fall into the hands of a whole bunch of different Islamic radical groups. So America has no choice but to continue to support the Pakistan army because that's the only thing that is stopping all of that weaponry, including the nuclear weapons,
yeah,
to fall in the hands of a whole
you're
bunch of.
paying off the barbarians. I no, I get it. Yeah.
Well, you're paying off the Pakistan military to hold off the barbarians to get to the nuclear weapons and a whole bunch of other weapons.
Gary.
Gary,
Okay.
by the way.
Those are all
Yeah.
my. That's my whole. Those are all three of my points. So, or questions
Yeah.
or whatever.
And Armin, can I just respond to Shauna a little bit?
Yeah, of course. Go ahead, please do.
So, Shauna, you're bringing up a very, very good point. So, not coincidentally, NATO leadership was just in Azerbaijan as well as in Armenia, which are right next to each other to the west of the Caspian Sea. And what goes on is that Azerbaijan, as was rightly pointed out, is a very strong American ally, but also a very strong ally of Israel. Next to it is Armenia, which, about 100 years ago was the mass slaughter of about 9 million Armenians, that they're still not being recognized. So there are a lot of sensitivities there. But it's not coincidental that the leaders of NATO went to both Armenia and Azerbaijan about a week and a half ago. And the reason there is since the fall of the Soviet Union and the consolidation of certain nations, Armenia, as well as Azerbaijan, Turkmenistan, southern Kazakhstan, and Uzbekistan, cooperate with NATO in terms of training for self-defense, meaning defense of the country, not individual citizenry. So they're very much aligned with a non-jihadist agenda. They're very much in favor of keeping their nations stable and doing commerce within the region. And it is happening in actuality. Sometimes these various pieces don't necessarily seem to fit together, but NATO has just spent a lot of time in Azerbaijan and Armenia to prepare them for what may be coming in Iran, is my suspicion. I was not a part of any of those discussions. But the issue is that Armenians look over the border into Iran and Azerbaijanis look over the border into Iran, and they see friends and relatives and their families. And these are people that they care about. And Azerbaijan, yes, does not have a huge military, nor does Armenia, but they do have the ability to help secure their brethren in those provinces in northwestern Iran to make sure nothing bad happens to them. So I hope that gives a little bit more color here. You're not looking for Azerbaijani armies to start fighting against the Iranians or the Armenians to start doing so. You don't have to encourage the Kurds. They'll do whatever's necessary because they don't take guff from anybody. But there's a
Yeah.
lot going on, and there's a lot of family and friendships that go on that neutralize northwestern Iran preferentially.
Okay. Yeah, I just was curious. I was surprised when I found out when I did like a little bit of a not a deep dive, but a peripheral glance. Azerbaijan seems to be making, given their challenges, making some headway, and
Yeah.
so
And one last thing about Baluchistan, you may or may not be aware of it, but yesterday was the end of the about a week and a half to 2 week standoff between the military and the police of Afghanistan and Pakistan and Iran against this wild band of Baluchis that just were killing as many Iranian paramilitary forces, Pakistani paramilitary forces, and Afghani. I mean, the Baluchis are very, very restive at this point, and there are actually contacts between the U.S. government and the Baluchis going on right now.
Okay, well, that's not good. I mean, first of all, the Baluchi separatists, not the Baluchis, right?
I can't say
Yeah.
for sure who they're talking to, but I will say this, that there
So,
are direct contacts that are going on because there's a
so
possibility that Chahar Bey may become a part of the U.S. Navy in the coming weeks.
okay, so in Pakistan or in Iran?
In Iran. So you have
Well, okay,
Baluchistan, and then you have Konarak, and Konarak is on that bay, Chahar
yeah.
Bard Bay. Yeah.
So I just want to obviously we Iranians are really sensitive about not mixing any of our ethnic groups with the separatists, right? So I want to also make sure Baluchis or Iranian Baluchis are not the same as saying the separatist Baluchi groups in Iran. We always want to insist on the separatist group being a minority of any ethnic group that we mention in Iran. And are you suggesting that the United States will be working with the separatist groups, armed
No.
separatist groups? No, okay, because that would not be good. Okay, that's
Briefly
all right.
before we move on, Cat Lady has something to add to this.
I heard some rumors. I agree that it's worrying. I hope it's wrong that the U.S. is in contact with Azaris, Kurds, and Baluchis. I'm not sure. Maybe it's just rumors. It is worrying. I hope they do it in the right way at least. But one point about Armenia, the recognition is not the issue. Armenian governments have done all the wrong choices, whatever they could do them about Israel. And actually, the Armenian churches, even some of them, are very hostile to Israel. So it's more complicated. Let's say it this way.
Cat lady, you could not be more correct. And just as the rabbinate in Israel is trying to take land from the Armenian church in Jerusalem and a few other areas, there are a lot of complicated issues here, but I think we should probably stick with the revolution in Iran right now.
Right. So yeah, let's move on.
If everyone is interested after Armin leaves, that could be a great topic for us to do a little deep dive on.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Okay, we have a question in the chat. Armin, you have spent probably the most time here looking at the IPP. Does it talk about the security and border situation starting day one?
Yeah, it does. It does talk about basically bringing stability and the steps that we need to take to. It doesn't go into when it comes to safety and security. It doesn't go into a lot of details when it comes to controlling the armed forces. And I had the main editor of the IPP on my show in Persian, Saeed Qasim, which is also his the main advisor of Prince Reza Pahlavi. And I asked them like, why is it like the most important part is the military, like for us to know how we're going to stabilize the situation from a military perspective on day one. Why does this plan not go into a lot of detail with regards to that? And on the show, he said, like, well, because that part shouldn't be public. Like, you don't want to show the Islamic Republic exactly all the plans that we're having to like because guys, we're talking about the first 100, like first 100 days. The booklet that we've been studying a lot, that's the first 100 days, right? So what comes when it comes to securing our borders after the first 100 days, that's a completely different topic. And it actually, a lot of it is going to also be after the transitional period and determined by the elected government. But obviously, the first 100 days, what they're going to do to try to secure the country from a military perspective, those plans cannot be shared publicly because a lot of it involves the already communications that Prince Reza Pahlavi's team is having with people from the Artesh or other people from inside Iran. So that is the part that they cannot discuss yet. But I haven't studied the other parts of the IPP with regards to their border security, especially on the eastern borders. But I do know for a fact that that is the most important area when it comes to border security because a lot of when we're talking about border integrity of Iran, what threatens Iran from our eastern borders is a lot more significant than our western borders because our east, we are basically the countries on our eastern borders, they're kind of semi-failed states, so we can't really rely on them. Like at least on the western borders there's some sort of government that also wants to have some border security. On the east, we're dealing with Pakistan and Afghanistan. They have no control over their borders, right? So it's completely chaotic. It's also a lot more poor. It's also water shortage situation is a lot worse on the eastern borders. And the Islamic Republic has spent all of its military budget focusing on destroying Israel at some point. All of the enrichment uranium, all of the ballistic missiles and cruise missiles, they're useless when it comes to border security. We need to be reinvesting in a army that is mainly focused on securing our eastern borders, which means that is not going to be the same military assets designed to bomb Tel Aviv. So we need to be investing in a lot of assets from scratch. That's going to take a long time to secure those borders. We might be needing some help, by the way, I think, in that regards. If I could add something to the transitional plan, I would be asking Americans to come into Iran and just have some American bases for a short while before we get everything in order. Like I know a lot of Iranians would get, don't want that, but I honestly think that's necessary.
You guys need
So
like
go.
a wall between you and Pakistan and Afghanistan.
Did you make that suggestion to the author of the plan? Did you speak to him at all about that?
We have been talking about that in many of our shows. I mean, not on the show, because them saying yes or no to it will not look good, right? If they say yes, they're like, you want American boots on the ground. If you say no, like, oh, so you're anti-American as the rest of them. Like, so it's better not to ask that question from the Pahlavi's team on the show. But Gary has some opinions on this.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, I think you're going to get your wish because the uranium mines in Baluchistan and in southern Khorasan provinces are going to be guarded by U.S. SunCom
Yeah.
for as long as they need to be decommissioned.
Are you sure about that?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I mean, I hope so. I don't know how that's going to be perceived. I don't know how Americans will tolerate that. Like, do you think American voters would tolerate America? Like, oh my God, you said no boots on the ground, and this is boots on the ground.
So the good news is that there's that place in New York on the East River. It's got a blue emblem. It's called the United Nations. You've heard of them?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the International Atomic Energy Agency will be the guys that really will control those sites. And that will make it more palatable, but the firepower will be American to make sure no looters come in.
Yeah,
That's
but
what happened.
again,
That's what happened in
how
Iraq.
is America going to sell this to American voters and taxpayers?
Oh, in terms of decommissioning all the Iranian nuclear sites, that won't be a tough sell in the United States.
No,
If they're there to decommission the nuclear sites, that's all the cover that Americans would need. Americans don't want any Iranian nuclear weapons or nuclear payloads being deliverable. Full stop. It's one of the few things Democrats and Republicans agree on.
So regarding the IPP and border security, let me give you the few things that they have mentioned about border security.